Hello and welcome to Moneylife. This is Sucheta Dalal. This week, we talk about something that has set social media on fire. Yeah, naturally. Are you staring at your wife on Sundays or do you go to work? At least the L&T chairman wants to know. So, those of you who have not been on social media, don't read newspapers, let me give you the story. So, the chairman of Larsen and Toubro in an internal meeting responded to a question about why the company doesn't have Saturdays off by saying that if he had his way, he would have called people to work on Sunday. I'm paraphrasing him, not his exact words. The video went viral. It's available on Reddit. It's available on Twitter or X. If you're interested, take a look. Now, let's discuss what this means. He wants people to work 90 hours a week, which is 20 hours more than what N.R. Narayan Murthy, founder of Infosys, wanted. It really means that you have no life. All you're doing is remaining at work. In this episode, I'm going to take a look at what this means, a 360-degree look at what it means to productivity, misogyny, employee rights, because it's when a statement like this comes from somebody who heads a large company, it needs to be taken seriously. I mean, of course, people have weighed in because it went viral, but it reflects on attitudes and it's not enough to just dismiss the issue. So let me start with a powerful statement that I read on JustWorks. It says, work-life balance isn't just a buzzword. It's a critical factor in attracting, retaining, and inspiring top talent around the world. Apparently, this does not hold sway at Larsen and Toubro. Its chairman, S. N. Subramanian, sparked a social media storm at an internal meeting where he said, "How long can you stare at your wife?" He also expressed regret at not being able to call employees even on Sunday. Like I said, responding to a question. He wanted people to work 90 hours. And he went on to quote a Chinese acquaintance who claimed that China can beat the United States because Americans work only 50 hours a week. Now, the backlash was swift. X went berserk. There's a meme fest with amazing, laughable pictures that you could look at. And what was L&T's reaction? It could have laughed, apologized, said this was in jest and moved on. Instead, it attempted to dig in its heels, while on one hand, it said the chairman was misunderstood. Here's what the spokesperson said. At L&T, nation building is at the core of our mandate. For over 8 decades, we have been shaping India's infrastructure, industries, and technological capability. We believe that this is India's decade, a time demanding collective dedication and effort to drive progress and realize our shared vision of becoming a developed nation. The chairman's remarks reflect this larger ambition, emphasizing that extraordinary outcomes require extraordinary effort. At L&T, we remain committed to fostering a culture where passion, purpose, and performance drives us forward. Phew. L&T is going to carry the burden on its shoulders. Frankly, it raises several questions. First, do companies that don't enforce a 90-hour work week lack commitment to nation building? And 90 hours itself, first of all, is absurd. So let's look at what top industrialists said. Luckily, many of them chose to come out and speak, posted their reactions on social media. So Harsh Mariwala, Harsh Goenka, Anand Mahindra, and a whole bunch of others, including Adar Poonawala, publicly advocated a healthy work-life balance, emphasizing its importance for productivity and well-being. So far, so good, right? Now, the larger debate. Did Mr. Subramaniam simply make an ill-thought remark, or does it reflect corporate India's expectation of employees who often lack the perks enjoyed by founders and top management? In L&T's case, people have compared Subramaniam's salary with the median salary, and it is humongous. So, benefits from ESOPs and high salaries go to top management, but you're expecting everybody to work, come on Sundays, come on Saturdays, and you're going to call it nation building. Doesn't quite work, especially not in the organized sector with large listed companies. Like I said, let's look at every aspect of this. Now, historically, long hours and sacrifices have often been the price of success in every field of human endeavor. You cannot win Wimbledon, you cannot be a top cricketer, you cannot be a great painter or a singer without working long hours. But that's a personal choice. And the key is balancing productivity and sustainability. If you're going to talk about employees, when you're talking about individuals, I can work 20 hours a day. It's my choice as long as nobody forces me. The minute I'm forced, it becomes slave labor. So let's look at the productivity versus overwork issue. The objective of making highly paid employees work 70 to 90 hours, because Infosys said 70, L&T says 90 hours, they say is nation building. These are people who have ESOPs and are well paid. The rest of the country actually is working long hours. So micro, small, and medium enterprises that contribute 30% to India's GDP actually work very long hours with very few holidays and perks, because these smaller companies simply cannot afford the luxury of paying more or having more employees. And the unemployment situation in India is such that people need jobs and are willing to do it, right? Agriculture, back-breaking work for 10 to 12 hours a day, come rain or shine, contributes 15% of GDP. So are they not part of nation building? They are, and they're doing it. Doesn't mean that L&T employees have to be whipped into joining and that this should apply to listed companies. True nation building requires better wages, better work-life balance for workers, rather than more labor from employees of large listed companies. After all, in India, approximately 93% of workers are in the unorganized sector. Now, even before the L&T thing happened, let's take a look at how people looked at productivity, labor, unemployment. So here's a discussion that happened in Economic Times. It was a pre-budget discussion preceding the L&T wife steering comment. Okay, it was a meeting of CFOs. At least two of them said, two who were quotable, said that India needs job creation and better wages to drive growth and consumption. Wages had to increase to meet cost of living in many sectors, said one of them. Another said that urban consumption, in fact, had slowed down significantly and needed to be pushed. And we're seeing this. Companies are trying to go rural, trying to make smaller products, because people are not even consuming toothpaste and soap as much as they used to. Now, neither of these objectives is met by employees of L&T or Infosys working long hours and spending Saturdays and Sundays in office. In fact, take a look at what the CFO of Hershey's company says. He, in fact, wants a government to increase disposable income through tax concessions or help create more jobs so that the middle class can boost consumption. For middle class to consume more, they need Saturdays and Sundays off. They need to spend time with their families. They need entertainment. They need travel. And their spending boosts the economy in general. This is common sense. It's well known. In fact, Ramani Dati, CFO of Teamly Services, flagged low productivity as an issue. Sure, but not because people were staring at their wives or not spending enough time in office. It's because job seekers, when they come into the workplace, are often unemployable because the quality of our education system, they need significant investment in training, right? Now let's come to work-life balance. Well before the L&T statement, way back in 2015, Harvard Business Review published a study which concluded that overwork, which they consider beyond 40 to 50 hours a week, leads to diminishing returns. How? It increases stress, causes health problems, and actually shows up on corporate balance sheets. It's no more an individual issue. How? Again, because people make expensive mistakes, company pays a price, or there are accidents where there's a bigger price. This is what the developed world learned decades ago, especially with organized unions to force it. So you have 5-day weeks in most developed countries. Countries like Germany, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Netherlands have actually demonstrated that shorter work weeks have not diminished productivity, in fact, increased it. The study also recognized that Nuclear families with no support networks have family responsibilities and they need personal time. Then came technology. Technology enabled flexi work, remote work, work from home, all wonderful, good things. COVID happened in 2020, and that led to global adoption of hybrid work models. So people who would insist, like L&T, come to work every day, definitely Saturday, Sunday, and holidays, now we're saying work, even if it's from home, even if it is while you're traveling. So hybrid models became the norm. Of course, some companies are demanding employees come back to work, but there was a downside to this as well. The minute the employee became available to you, he or she had to be on call 24/7. Anytime the boss called, anytime a Zoom call was decided, you had to be online no matter what you were doing, right? So this led to increased stress, sleeplessness, burnout. So a new set of problems. The world is responding to that as well. France had a right to disconnect law enacted in 2017. It allows employees to ignore all work-related communication outside office hours. Yes, we know it's a developed country with a much higher GDP, does not apply in India, but I'm telling you where the world is headed. At the end of August 2024, Australia introduced a law that allows employees to refuse to respond to job-related communication, again, outside work hours. Both countries have mandatory 30-day paid vacations. US and Canada also do all kinds of things which are done in India. They offer lovely workplaces, allow people to work from home, flexi work hours, are generous with parental leave, anything to retain talent and ensure work-life balance. But Mr. Subramaniam was not comparing with these countries, right? He was talking about China. So it is a fact that Southeast Asia and China still revere long working hours. In fact, China was infamous for the 996 work culture. What is 996? It means that employees were expected to work 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. People regarded it as modern slavery. Now, do the numbers. Even 996 works out to only 72 hours a week, which is nearer Narayan Murthy's wish of 70 hours and far lower than the 90 hours that the L&T boss wants its employees to work. In fact, Malaysia, South Korea, Singapore, and Japan have had this culture of long working hours, but there is a social cost attached to it. And this is increasingly visible and is worrying those nations, right? So this impacts women. Now, let's look at how women reacted to the L&T controversy. For most women, the call for a 90-hour work week felt deeply sexist. It trivialized their contribution at home and also seemed to exclude them from the workplace because 90 hours is impossible for women if they have a family to look after. The L&T chief seems oblivious to the long-term impact of work cultures that require employees, especially men, to be married to the workplace and also socialize with colleagues after work, as is happening in Southeast Asia. South Korea, Japan have experienced the consequences because women said that if we are going to bear the burden of the family alone and spend all our time alone while the husbands are married to their jobs, then we might as well not get married and not have children. So they opted out of both marriage and families. So the result was a steep drop in fertility rates. Consequently, they have dropped below replacement levels. Look at what's happened in Japan, especially Tokyo. In December 2024, Tokyo metropolitan government decided to introduce a 4-day work week for government employees. It's going to start soon. It also allows parents of very young children, first grade to third grade, to log out early from work as long as they take a small pay cut. Why are they doing this? Because fertility rates in Japan are now below replacement and much lower, especially in Tokyo, which is a very crowded city. So they want to encourage people to have more time for families so that people feel like having families. And once they have families, have time for childcare without calling a halt to their career. Remember, birth rates have fallen steadily in Japan over the last 8 years because of this kind of culture. They are at a low of 1.2 into 2023, when the replacement rate is 2.1. Japan is worried. Tokyo is even more worried. And yes, again, this experiment does not apply to India. India needs to push its GDP, but employees of a few listed companies working 7 hours, 7 days a week is not going to change that. In fact, they're not going to work, they will leave their jobs. It is important for corporate honchos to realize that equating long working hours with productivity and nation building is not only wrong, it's misplaced and in fact has a high cost. So when the thinking at the top changes, only then you can have this change and this thinking flowing down the line. So the L&T chairman's remarks may have been tactless, but one positive outcome is that there is a nationwide debate. Everyone has jumped into it. It has sparked conversations that are critical about productivity, work-life balance, and their long-term consequences, as well as the future of corporate culture in India. In fact, it's a bad signal that's sent out by L&T because people are going to think twice even about applying for a job over there. If you agree, spread this. This is not about one ill-considered remark or some memes that we have all laughed at. There is a larger issue out here which needs to be understood. Thank you so much.